Hello and welcome to week 37 of the Ray of Hope Crochet Along, and this week we're making the half ring stitch. This is quite an unusual stitch. It's really just a half double crochet as a slip stitch. So how do we make it? So we're going to be using a 3.5mm hook for this one, and we're going to do our first 2 rows of the ray the same as we would as usual. So chain 22. In the 4th chain from your hook, make a double crochet in each stitch across. Including that turning chain, you'll have 20 stitches. For row 2, you turn, chain 1, make the alternate turning chain 2 together over the first 2 stitches, double crochet in each stitch across until you have 2 stitches left, and then finish the row with a double crochet 2 together. So then we turn, chain 1, and we'll begin row 3. Okay, so after our chain 1, we're going to single crochet in the first stitch. Okay, so we're now going to make a half ring stitch. So a half ring stitch is really just a half double crochet slip stitch. You're going to yarn over, hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull through. And then you're going to pull through 2 loops. So yarn over, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Try and keep this loose just so it makes it easier in the next row. Oops, I didn't do the yarn over. So yarn over into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then slip stitch through those 2 loops. Okay. So yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then slip stitch through the 2 loops. Yarn over into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then slip stitch through the 2 loops. Okay, so it's quite easy for this to become quite tight, but if I turn it over you see those diagonal stitches coming through on the back. And that's the look we're going for. Okay, so we're just going to carry on with this all the way down to the end of the row until we've only got 1 stitch left. Okay, once you get into the rhythm of it, it's not too bad. It's just, it can be a bit tricky getting through that first loop especially. I find it easier if I kind of move that first loop back a bit just to give myself a bit more space to get my hook in. And just carry on down to the end of the row. Helps if you keep your stitches nice and loose, so try and keep your tension relaxed. And last half ring stitch. Okay, and in the last stitch I'm going to single crochet. Okay. So there's the stitch I've just done, which don't look anything much. I turn it over, you've got these lovely little diagonal pieces there. Got pulled stitch them. Okay. So it's a single-sided stitch, but we're going to carry on doing this row by row, so you'll end up with alternate rows of having this lovely texture on one side and then plain on the other. Okay, so that's row 3, and we're going to repeat exactly the same for rows 4 to 8 as well. So to start the row, turn your chain 1 and make a single crochet in the first stitch, and then you're going to do half ring stitches across the row until you have 1 stitch left, and then single crochet in the last stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I shall see you when I get to the end of row 8. Okay, so I finished row 8 and you can see I've got these lovely diagonal lines going across. If I turn over, and there as well, they're on alternate rows on each side. Okay, so for the next few rows we're going to go back to double crochet. Okay, so row 9, I'm going to turn, chain 1, and this is a decrease row. So we're going to make the alternate turning chain 2 together over the first 2 stitches. Okay, didn't make that stitch quite nice, I'll sort that out in a minute. And then we're going to double crochet in each stitch across. Okay, and then when we get to the end we're going to double crochet 2 together over the last 2 stitches. So we're decreasing down to 16 stitches for this row. And then rows 10, 11 and 12 are double crochet rows. So you're just going to double crochet in every stitch and you'll have 16 double crochet in those rows. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you at the end of row 12 and I'll show you what happens in the next section. Okay, so I'm at the end of row 12 and I've got my last row of 16 double crochet. So I'm going to turn, chain 1, and row 13 is another decrease row. So we're going to do the alternate turning chain 2 together over the first 2 stitches. Okay, and then we're going to double crochet in each stitch until we get to the last 2 stitches and then double crochet 2 together over those last 2. So we're decreasing down to 14 stitches in this row. Okay, and then row 14 we're going to go back and do another section of half ring stitch. Okay, so I'll just finish this row up and then we'll start that section. So we're just going to do 2 sections of half ring stitch in this array. Okay, so after we've done this next section of half ring stitch we'll be going back to double crochet to finish the array. Okay, one more double crochet and then finish the row with double crochet 2 together. There we go. Okay, so that was row 13. So half ring stitch we're going to do for rows 14 to 20. So we're going to turn, chain 1 and single crochet in that first stitch. So this is exactly the same as we did for rows 3 to 8. It's just that there's fewer stitches in each row. And we're just going to do exactly the same to make the half ring stitch all the way across and single crochet in the last stitch of the row. Okay, so rows 14 to 20 we're going to do half ring in every row. Okay, so I'm going to go finish that up and I shall come back to you at the end of row 20. Okay, so there's no decrease rows in between, it's just all half ring in every stitch, no decreases. Okay, so I shall be back at the end of row 20. Okay, so I finished row 20 and that's both our sections of the half ring stitch finished. So from here on in we're back to double crochet to finish our array. So row 21 is a decrease row. So I'm sure you know how to do this by now. It's the alternate turning chain 2 together over the first 2 stitches and then we're going to double crochet in every row, and then over the last 2 stitches double crochet 2 together. And then to finish the ray, you're going to make 3 rows of double crochet in every stitch, do a decrease row, another 3 rows of double crochet in every stitch, a decrease row. So for this ray there's 46 rows in total. Your decrease rows are rows 21, 25, 29, 33, 37, 41 and 45. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish this ray, and I shall come back to you in a minute and tell you what we're doing with the slip stitch border. Okay, so I finished my ray for the half ring stitch and got all the way to the end. So just these lovely 2 sections of the half ring. So for your slip stitch border, you're going to make a slip stitch into each stitch across the bottom, so 20 slip stitches across the bottom. Up the sides you'll make 2 slip stitches into the side of every double crochet row and 1 slip stitch into the side of every half ring row. Okay, so remember, once we get to the end, that last row, you do 2 slip stitches in one side and 1 slip stitch in the other. So you'll end up with 78 slip stitches down one long side and 77 down the other. Once you've done that, you can weave in your ends and join it to last week's ray. So I hope you enjoy that stitch, and I shall see you next week for week 38. Bye for now.